to Madame Raven's. This way to the library. She's been expecting you.
Ghosts of Miesau by Michael Lockhart. In 1985-86, I was stationed at Miesau Army Depot near the eponymous village. We could see Landstuhl Castle on a large hill, small mountain in the distance, and Hamburg was a mere 8 miles from us. The area was close to the border with France. Not sure why I never crossed it. I had a bicycle, and it was only about 20 miles. We were there to guard the various items that passed through the depot. We never saw under the tarps, and for my part, I didn't want to know. I whaled my dog and jumped at every chance to travel on TDY, temporary duty assignments. My favorite was New Ulm, across the river in Ulm, where there was a magnificent cathedral I liked to climb. From the top, the view of the Schwaben Alps was breathtaking. Back at Miesau, I spent most of the year griping to myself. I resented being in West Germany, protecting people my dad had fought during World War II. I wish we'd talked more before I went rather than on my return. He always assured me that there was a difference between Germans and Nazis. Germans were still human, he'd say. I'd come from a pretty miserable outfit at Fort Carson, Colorado. Hey, I was born there. Instead of shaking it off and being happy with having a dog walk, I gnawed on the wrongs I'd suffered. I was young, and that's not an uncommon pastime. My friends eventually pointed me towards better ways to spend my time. One of those was to explore the posts during patrol. I had a well-trained Rottweiler and a .45 pistol. I wasn't afraid to go anywhere. I avoided the small sounder of boar inside of the fence line, and the old bunker where a sow was reputed to have taken up residence with her young. Otherwise, I went everywhere except to the old battlefield. The place was full of history. The fields around had yielded archaeological finds that dated from the Bronze Age. I was tempted to climb the fence and try to evade the barbed wire at the top when I saw a rainbow that ended in the field that ran alongside the fence. There had to be leprechaun gold, or gnomish. I'm sure I missed out on an opportunity by avoiding federal military charges and serious injuries that would have occurred. One of the troops found a coal scuttle helmet in a field near the barracks. Patton had pushed through the area on his way to Berlin. Not sure how accurate that was, but there was definitely fighting. Dad's bunch came through north of the area. There were the old Wehrmacht pillboxes for ammo storage out in the forest, next to the modern and old bunkers. We never asked what was in the bunkers, but there was a lot of them. Concrete humps that rose out of the darkness, most with a sad yellow glow around the front of a feeble, incandescent bulb under a shield. Our squad leader would often call us to meetings at one of the bunkers. He parked his truck under the light. We'd stake out the dog so nobody could sneak up on you, and place spades on the hood, your tax dollars at work. The bunker was American-made, but was at the edge of the battlefield. Nobody knew for sure what happened in the area during the war, exactly. However, the forest was thick and dark and foreboding. It created its own gloom and dreadful feelings. Most of us avoided it, except for the card table bunker. We had a dog, one Rex by name, a husky mix, and one of the oldest dogs in the kennel. His first handler fed him LSD in the 70s. That turd went to Mannheim prison, and poor Rex freaked out for a while. Broke most of his teeth chewing on the kennel fencing. He would go tripping on occasion. Mostly he was fun when he barked. Christopher Lloyd was popular at the time, coming off Taxi and Back to the Future, and a Klingon in Star Trek III. When Rex barked, he sounded like Christopher Lloyd playing a barking dog. Same hoarseness, the yeah, garble of Reverend Jim. Maybe Rex was having a flashback, or maybe something else happened. We were deep in our card game when Rex's handler noticed his boys staring at the concrete wall of the bunker. He stared through the wall into someplace beyond. He twisted his head in curiosity and huffed a few times. Then he was on his feet, barking and snapping. Ay, 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 ay. None of us wanted to approach him, even his handler. Then, as suddenly as he'd started, he stopped, circled a few times, and curled up for a nap. We wrapped up the card game and went back to work. The other dogs were spooked. They didn't join in the noise-making, but they were happier than usual to have to start walking again. Not long afterwards, one of our troops, Scotty, claimed to have witnessed an apparition. Now, Scotty was known for expanding on the truth, okay? He was a pathological liar. One of two I met in 6 years in the Army. Just saying. Thing is, we knew that he was full of, stuffing. He also had a few tales when he was lying. He would never hesitate about lying. All that said, either one believed him or not. One thing he also never did was tell on himself until he related the events of a particular night. He ventured into the battleground. He wanted to goof off, and he'd heard some spooky tales. Mostly he wanted to shirk and sleep. Admirable goals in the minds of most of us. He claimed that he wasn't sure what awakening him from his doze, or whether what he experienced was a dream. He was always sure when lying. He said that the first thing he smelled was harsh tobacco smoke. Not one of his, shift smoked, and it was too late for the German nationals to be out working. He said he saw the smoke, blue-tinged like it was puffed out of a mouth. Then slowly, it took form. It was often misty or downright foggy. He said that the mist swirled around the form like it was something solid. It took shape as a German soldier. Scotty was a World War II buff and knew the uniform well. He said that the man stood with his weapon slung over his shoulder, clearly relaxed, like he was taking over Scotty's duties for him. It freaked him out. He said his dog alerted but stayed silent and was happy to leave when he did. He refused to go back to that part of the post. Could be he took up the tale. We'd been talking about the creepy feelings and the cold spots, but until then, no one had ever claimed to have actually spied a ghost. Found a few locals attempting to spy. It was the Cold War, after all. But never a dispirited spirit. I had a mysterious event encounter with my dog. We were walking the interior fence line, well lit, towers with poor living souls having to stare out at the great nothing every night. There was a nice, fresh snow. Pasha, my pup, loved snow. First time he saw it, he burrowed, and then, you have to picture a patrol-trained Rottie, gambled with the other dogs who saw it for the first time. This was not his first snow, but he was feeling frisky with the powder all around. He alerted, not on a human, but on a group of wild ferrets that teemed out of the forest and onto the pavement. He desperately wanted to wade into the foray, and I had to work to get his attention back on track. Not sure why the ferrets all decided to leave the woods at once, but it was near our favorite bunker. I took him back the other direction to get his nerves settled, and suddenly he tugged me over to a patch of snow just on the shoulder of the roadway. He burrowed for a second and came up with a leather work glove. Nothing special. He would not let go of the glove. He was obsessed with it. dragged me over to a berm just beyond the loading docks, found a spot and buried it. He never displayed the behavior, so I went along with it to try and determine the scoop. I have forgotten about it, but we went to TDI for a month, and when we returned, he found the other glove, exact same behavior. The only time he'd ever shown his arse and growled at me was when I tried to snatch it from him. By protocol, I should have jerked his chain and set him straight. However, I felt there was something more to it, so off we went. He sniffed out the same spot, dug up the first glove, dropped in the second, and buried them. When we got back to ground level, he went back to his normal, unfocused self. I know it's not much, but his personality changed. Not cool. I visit some of the cool sites. Europe is old that way. Every inch of ground well trodden for many years. These were the creepiest things I witnessed or heard directly. I heard plenty of other stories, but they were all secondhand and clearly urban legends. I posted a pic of the dog on whom I based Oscar, along with me and my pooch on Reddit. Best part I ever had. Never snitched once. As for Oscar, he gave me my coolest scar during a training incident. Pasha was a happy warrior and very apologetic. He, Oscar, and a German shepherd named Elkin were the demo team. All three dogs were young and worked together well. The three breeds were a great contrast. See? I forgot ghosts when I talk about dogs. Lacey and her pack may be fictional, but they are based on many pups I've met over the years, and maybe, just maybe, mind you, some of the adventures in the Lacey Brook pack had in the forest, out on their own, hunting feral hogs, was inspired by one of those TDY locations in the Black Forest. Maybe with wild boars. Just saying. So quoth this raven. I find these true stories so interesting, and I hope you do too. Next week, we will be back to the Urban Fae. We have 3 new chapters up to get down, and I hope you all have the most lovely of weekends, darling. Thank you so kindly for stopping by my chateau, my darlings. It does mean so much to me. Please, if you have not subscribed, as many of you have not, please do so. Give me a like so I know what you would like to hear. And comment. I always love to read your comments. And special thanks to my Patreon and membership supporters. Ciao, darlings.